Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, ma ba'd. In this short clip, my brothers and sisters, we want to talk about the concept of ability when it comes to the person who is fasting. And this has been discussed by the ulama when it comes to a normal scenario, but whenever we've got a plague and a pandemic, a person might be experiencing some kind of symptoms, etc. What does that person do if he is experiencing any kind of symptoms? And this is general beneficial knowledge, inshallah, for all circumstances, because unfortunately there are a lot of misinformation, and there is a lot of misinformation, and there are a lot of misconceptions that people have when it comes to fasting. So you will find people who really shouldn't be fasting, but they will still fast because they want to attain the reward and keep the spirit of Ramadan, etc. So we really need to define what is ability. Now the ulama have talked about ability meaning that a person is able to do an action, and if he does that action, he is not going to be harmed. So point number one, ability refers to a person being able to do an action and he won't be harmed. Or it won't delay recovery. Or it won't cause greater harm. Three aspects when it comes to ability. So now if a person has symptoms, if a person has a general illness or disease or condition, if it is going to harm him to fast, or there's going to be a great deal of difficulty that is going to come about, or there is going to be some kind of delay in recovery, then that is all discussed as being inability. However, there are grades of that. So now, number one, if a person is ill and there is no hope that this person is going to recover, it's a permanent illness, then that person, with the agreement of the ulama, doesn't fast and he doesn't make qada. He makes fidya, he feeds a poor person for every single day that he hasn't fasted. Allah says in the Quran, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَ فِدْيَةُ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. For those people who do not have the ability, then they give fidya and they expiate themselves by feeding a poor person every single day. That's a permanent illness. The second one is where there is a temporary illness, meaning the person is not well, and with that we have to then discuss. Number one, if he was to fast, if that's going to make his situation worse, if it's going to delay recovery, or it's actually directly going to harm him, then the ulama have said, and there is no disagreement on this, that it is haram for him to fast. It is haram for him to fast. And even in the first scenario where a person has a permanent illness, and if he was to fast with that permanent illness and it's going to cause him harm, or it's going to cause him a great deal of difficulty, then it's haram for that person to fast. So now it's very important for us to understand that a person might have some very, very bad symptoms of COVID-19, or it could be that a person is diabetic, and we find this is very unfortunate. And people want to do that with this goodness of their heart. They want to do it with the goodness of their heart, with the ikhlas that they have, with the spirit of Iman and Ramadan. They want to maintain that. However, if a person has got something like diabetes, a long-term illness, there's no cure for some people, there is no hope for recovery for some people, that becomes then a permanent illness. And the ulama have mentioned here, if a person is in a permanent illness or a temporary illness, and by fasting is going to make him sick, really, really sick, then it becomes haram for that person to fast. This is because Allah says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَ فِدْيَةُ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Right, let's go back to those people with a temporary illness. Because a permanent illness, like we've said, Allah has categorically said they do not have the ability, they need to feed a poor person instead. And if they didn't listen to that, they could actually be sinful. But those people who have a temporary illness, is it going to harm them? If it is going to harm them, then it's haram for them to fast. However, their ruling is different. Allah says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. When he is able to, then he makes the qada. When he is able to, he makes the qada. And this is similar to women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, etc. This is what they must do, is that they must make up a day afterwards when they are able to, because they have been categorized as having a temporary kind of illness. Now, the temporary kind of illness, and when we're talking about temporary, meaning it's not permanent, it will go away, it might be there for 2-3 days, or maybe even longer, or it might just be the one day. But there is a hope. It's not going to stay. There is a hope for recovery. When it comes to temporary illness, there is further discussion. So now if a person is experiencing some kind of coughing or lack of breath or any kind of symptoms when it comes to COVID or anything else, any other kind of illness, if fasting will cause intense hardship, but he can see out the fast and not be harmed, but it will just cause a great deal of difficulty, then that person has an inability. However, it becomes Makrooh for him to fast. So the Sharia is now saying here that he is not in a position of self-harm, but he is in a position of self-inflicted hardship. So for him, he has the rukhsa and the concession not to fast, and if he was to fast, then that would be Makrooh. As we said before now, so these are two characteristics of ability. The third characteristic of ability is where the recovery will be delayed. Where the recovery will be delayed. So now, for example, a person has very mild symptoms of COVID-19, or a person is experiencing a headache, not a migraine. A migraine, depending on how severe it is, it could be haram for him to fast, and he should break the fast and see to himself. Or it could be that a person has got a migraine, but it's going to cause intense hardship, but he can see it through. Then the fasting will be sahih, and it would be makruh for him to do that. However, if a person is experiencing mild headaches or mild symptoms of COVID or any other kind of illness which is mild, meaning that a person is able to fast and there's no harm and there is no difficulty, except the only thing is that the recovery will be delayed by fasting, then the ulama have mentioned that it is mustahab for that person not to fast. It is better for that person not to fast. But if he has fasted, then inshallah he will be rewarded anyway. And then there is a fourth category of people where it is extremely mild. So he's got a very, very lingering headache. It's not that bad, but it's there. It's annoying him. Or, an illness which is not going to harm him directly. It's not going to cause hardship. And it's not going to delay recovery. For that person, they must continue fasting. Because in Islam, that person is not considered as being marid. So the marid is of two types. The marid is a person who is always going to be ill. For that person, he needs to give the fidya. Or the marid who is able to have a cure, he's going to become well soon, inshallah. It's not permanent. But then we have to investigate, is that going to cause self-harm? If it is going to cause self-harm, direct harm, then it becomes haram for him to fast. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيدًا عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. Then he must make up a day afterwards. If the illness and the difficulty that he experiences is intense hardship, then it becomes makruh for him to fast. Or if he is experiencing something which is difficult, but he can hack it, but the only thing is that it's going to delay his recovery, then it becomes mustahab for him not to fast. If any of these three characteristics are missing, then he must fast as normal. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to all of the Muslims wherever they may be. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد.